Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com and I'm here today with a project update video for this 1/6 scale radio-controlled Armortek Late Production German Tiger 1. Since the last video update, a lot of progress has been made to the tank's upper deck as well as its grille work, and we'll be going over these additions in this video. Before I can proceed and fabricating the top deck mounts for the hull, I went ahead and disassembled the top deck into the basic components that you see here. The purpose of this is so if I could go ahead and reassemble everything and make some needed modifications to the top deck, it's a lot easier at this point than before when everything was bolted together. Here we have the main top deck portion of the vehicle, and here we have the engine deck section, an interior bulkhead, and this here is the grille work. Now, like I mentioned in the unboxing video, on this version of the Tiger 1 release, Armortek utilized this design for the top deck as opposed to the earlier releases, which the top deck itself was one solid steel plate that was all laser cut. For this release here, they passed on steel and replaced that with aluminum. Also, the aluminum, like I mentioned before, is not one solid component, but is comprised of two separate pieces, which, when assembled, gives it for a little bit more of a realistic look. Also, another thing as of note, because this model is a late production Tiger 1, it has here the armored collar for the turret ring. This collar here is missing on the earlier versions of the Tiger 1. As for the collar material itself, it's actually made out of laser cut steel. Starting with the grille work, the grille work that you see here is left stock, and this is before any modifications are made to them. The grille work on this 2012 release is very similar to their earlier releases, just with a few minor improvements along the way. But basically they all follow the same format. The construction is that of casted aluminum. They are all solid and are very strong and are very nicely done. They feature a nice cast texturing in between the grills, and this is as per the real vehicle. As of note, on the Tiger 1, the grille work was one of the few components on the entire tank which was made out of cast construction as opposed to rolled steel. And here go the grills now with their modifications made just prior to final assembly and installation to the vehicle. These are the exact same grills from the previous scene, however have been modified slightly from the kit original. Moving our way to the main air intake grill, we can see that the most noticeable change is that of the filler cap location. As we recall from the previous scene, the filler caps on these Armortek kits are integrally molded into the grill casting. However, because of the tank smoke system, I'm going to go ahead and utilize this location here for that of refilling of the model smoke system. On the real vehicle, this location here would be utilized to refill the main fuel tanks on the tank. So for both detail as well as functionality, I went ahead and wanted to delete the molded in plug. In its place, I added a threaded drop-in adapter from EastCoastArmory.com. The components are made out of resin and also come with their threaded caps. Pieces are designed to utilize the kit grill and only replace the plug on both the air intake grills as well as the radiator armored covers that will be shown in a following scene. Also modified from the kit original is that of the grill's actual thickness. On the Tiger 1 and on most German tanks, the grills actually descended quite deep into the tank's hull. On the Armortek kit, the grill only comes down to this much. To fabricate the rest of the detailing, I went ahead and modified the resin grills from EastCoastArmory.com. They were casted, the center portions were removed and slightly altered to make them match better with the Armortek layout, and then were permanently affixed. Also added is the rough, very rough cast texturing that is found on the German tank grills. The rough cast texture not only supplies you the detailing of the actual cast texturing that's found on the real grills, but also act as a way to conceal and camouflage the seam of the two grill halves being mated together. Now, as you can see, the texturing is quite rough. This is done on purpose, as I've seen the real grills in person, and they are an extremely rough and crude castings compared to castings from other type of vehicles, namely that of like Shermans and Stewarts. The cast texturing was done to both the main grill as well as the fan exhaust grills. In addition to the texturing, as we can see, also the extension of the grill work was done to these components as well. Another modification that was made to the kit grills was that of the segmenting of the support struts. It's a little difficult to see with the grill completed. However, here go some pictures of the grill during its construction. As you can see on these German tank style grills, this is also true for the Panther and the King Tiger as well, the support struts do not all make contact with the box frame as they are represented on the majority of kits that are on the market. On the real German tank, they are staggered, and on the Tiger 1, they follow the following format. On the top portion of the grill, near the fuel filler cap, the support struts are segmented on the top on both of the ladder struts. And then towards the center, this one is also segmented and disconnected from the box frame. It's a lot easier to see on earlier pattern vehicles that do not feature the grenade grills, the mesh covers that this vehicle has. However, that it's added to the vehicle also greatly helps its accuracy. On the fan grills, a similar feature is found. Here we have a static image of what the pieces look like prior to the installation of the grills. On this style of grill, the format is as follows. If you're looking at it from the outside, the strut over here is disconnected here, but it's connected on the opposite side. And then this style staggers throughout the rest of the struts that you see on the frame. It's easier to see on the reverse. However, keep in mind, if you're going to do this modification, it's going to be inverted, as this is the bottom of the grill. You see it's connected, disconnected, connected, disconnected, and so on. While we're talking about the mesh that you see on this kit here are actually supplied with the kit. The later Armortek kits supply you with Photo-Etch, brass, grenade grill covers for the rear grill work of the Tiger 1. This is a nice addition, and this feature was not present on the earlier releases of the Armortek tank. These started being introduced fairly recently. The covers themselves are very nicely detailed. They bend very easily. They come as a flat plate that you need to bend in order to mount them to the grill. The crease lines are present in the Photo-Etch and bend very easily on just a regular shop vise. In addition to the main large type grill work we have here, also added is the secondary grill work. On these German tanks, the grill work, the main grill work castings themselves, the louvers were very, very large, so large in fact that you could probably stick your whole hand inside. This is less than ideal for a combat vehicle, as it's very easy to throw in a hand grenade into this location here. And since the fuel tanks are directly below this grill work, that could cause some serious issues. So the Germans quickly went ahead and modified their Tiger 1s by designing this drop-in, weld-on grill that we have here. In addition to the main grill, that has these very large square cut holes. There was a secondary mesh that was sandwiched in between the two. Secondary mesh is not included with the kit. However, I fabricated it out of varmint mesh. It was a very simple addition. I simply just cut it to the diameter, to the specs that you see here, and it simply just fit into the frame, and then was all sandwiched together when the grill work was installed to the grill casting. With the addition of the secondary grill, it really cuts down the profile of the holes, and it makes it very difficult for any foreign objects to get thrown into the rear engine deck. While on the fan work, we have here the addition of another component. This here is the hatch retaining latch from EastCoastArmory.com. Now, the model does have this component integrally molded into the grill work. However, it's a little bit on the basic side. So the kit one was deleted, and in its place the EastCoastArmory.com version was fabricated and epoxied firmly to the grill work while still retaining its functionality. The last modification that I made to the grill work is the addition of these two air ducts here. Now, a common misconception on the Tiger 1 is that through the main air intake grill, you can visually see the fuel tanks that are directly below the grill work. This is actually not true. On the real Tiger 1, the two fuel tanks were actually protected by the sheet metal air duct that you see here. The grill work ducts that you see here are not included with the Armortek kit. Instead are sheet metal aftermarket additions from EastCoastArmory.com. The ECA ducts are fabricated all out of sheet metal and are all soldered together. They have all of their detailing, including the cover for the fuel filler, as well as the center column with support struts. Everything is all soldered together, and they are one unit. Each set comes with a left and right hand unit for the grills. If you notice, the ducts are primed and weathered. In addition to the ductwork being painted, the grill work has also been painted in its base coat. The reason for this is that once the components are assembled and mounted to the vehicle, painting and weathering these components are going to be practically impossible. So all of this work is done prior to assembly and installation. The final bits that you see here to be added to the grill work are that of the detail for the fuel fillers. These small little components will be epoxied to the bottom portion of the main air intakes, and their job is to act as a detail element for that of the actual gas tank. Now, however, in addition to the detail element that they serve, they are also going to be the locations in which you will refill the tank's smoke fluid when the time comes. Moving our way to the engine hatch grill mechanism, the kit supplied unit is the way you see it here. The component itself is made out of the same casted aluminum type material that the remainder of the grill work was fabricated out of. One thing as of note though about this piece is that what separates this piece from the earlier Armortek releases is that this piece here is actually designed for late production Tiger 1. Namely that the earlier versions of the Armortek kits featured the snorkel cover cap that would have been this location over here. Because this is a late production run, that portion of that ability for the Tiger to ford was eliminated, thus so was the need to have the removable cover cap. Interesting enough though, even though the small little screw cap was eliminated, the Germans did retain the large hatch, which would have been for the attachment of the snorkel tubes. Even though this piece was a carryover from the earlier releases, the Germans would have welded this armored cover cap into place, permanently affixing it to the hinge mechanism. As for the kit itself, the cover is made out of a solid piece of CNC aluminum. It's a nicely shaped piece. Now, if the component was for an earlier tank, and this piece would have been made to be fully operational, I would have went ahead and probably swapped this out for a resin component from EastCoastArmory.com, due to the fact that the ECA one is hollow on the inside. However, since this component will be permanently affixed in the closed position, I'm going to simply just use the kit supplied one. I'll be just modifying a little bit of it to give it a little bit more cast texturing as opposed to the smooth CNC surface that you see now. And here goes the top deck with many of the additions completed. And here go the grills fully assembled and installed onto the vehicle. As of note, the rear fan grill work area, in the previous scene I mentioned that there is a secondary mesh that goes underneath the main protective mesh like you see here on the intake grill. However, upon doing further research on the Tiger 1, that was, I noticed, to be incorrect. The Tiger 1 only had the finer mesh on the intake grill, while on the fan escape grill, the mesh was not present and it was only the single layer. After the following scene, I went ahead and removed the secondary mesh and reinstalled the first layer like you see here. This was done to both right and left hand sets of grill work. Also, as we can see from the grill work, the fasteners have been added. Now, the Tiger 1 grill work features special type of fasteners. Unlike Allen screws or hex bolts, they're actually square studded bolts. The bolts that you see on this model are actually supplied with the Armortek kit and are a very nice addition to the model. They add a lot of realism to the kit. They were simply installed as is. Moving our way to the center engine hatch hinge mechanism. The hinge block itself has changed a little bit since the kit original from the previous scene. Added to the component is the cast texturing done to the cover cap. Also added are the wells for all the fasteners. This includes on both the hinge block as well as on the cover cap itself. The Armortek kit original just has the fasteners sitting on top of these locations here. The wells were drilled in via the drill press, and now the fasteners have the correct flush appearance to them. Also added is a revised axis panel on the center portion of the hinge block. The hinge block does have this component pre-molded in, along with the little axis cap over here. The molded in versions are a little bit soft and are a simple replacement. For the small axis hatch, a new one was turned on the lathe out of resin and simply added in place of the molded in one. As for this axis panel here, it was crafted out of a piece of Lexan plastic that was cut to the exact same dimensions as the molded one into the grill block. Once the component was ready, it simply drops directly onto the hinge block with no extra mods needed to be made to the hinge block itself. The holes that you see here for the fasteners were just drilled in, and it just slips into the kit location. Moving our way to the rear portion of the hinge block. On this portion here, on the kit original, because of the hollow casting that the hinge block is, this component here leaves a little gap that is noticeable once installed to the model. To alleviate this, the entire interior portion of the hinge block was reinforced with sculptable epoxy. Once the sculptable epoxy was added, the gap was eliminated, thus helping the look of the vehicle. Just like I mentioned in a previous scene, an ECA hatch retention hook has been added. The hook is fully functional with the Armortek molded in one, and keeps the grill open in the propped open state that you see here. Moving our way to the tank's engine hatch. The engine hatch has also received a bunch of significant changes from the previous scene. Starting with the rear air intake, the kit original air intake was replaced with a brass air intake kit from 6 scale icons. The set itself was easily assembled and is all soldered together as per the way the kit intends it to. As a comparison, this is the kit original. It's made out of pressed sheet metal and simply gets bolted in the location there. Also changed from the kit original is that of the center air intake. The kit supplies you with a solid CNC turned aluminum piece. The piece itself is correctly scaled and does have the basic appearance of the air intake dome that's found on the rear portion of the Tiger. However, instead of using the kit one, I went ahead and tooled up a new one out of resin. This new kit here is a new addition to the EastCoastArmory.com product line, and what's interesting about it is that it also has its interior detailing. As you can see, the interior portion of the air intake is a little bit more elaborate than was present on the Armortek kit original. The purpose of tooling up the new component is because of the tank's detailed engine compartment. The interior detailing of the hatch had to have been improved. Otherwise, if the tank did not have the interior detailing, I probably would have just kept the Armortek kit original and reworked it slightly to make it a little bit more accurate. In addition to adding the intake, the hatch itself features its little inlet, which helps it lock against the engine hatch frame. Also present is that of the well beads and the engine hatch locks. The locks are present on the exterior portion of the hatch. The interior detailing for the fasteners for the air intake are also present. As for the exterior of the hatch, it has the basic layout that you would expect to see on a Tiger 1. The hinges that you see here are the kit originals, only they've been slightly modified to give them a little bit more of a better look. The hatch retaining latch that you see here is the ECA one and was used over the kit original, so it better matches the two on the Grille Work.